Hello everyone, and welcome back to another GeoStats lecture video. And in this lecture video, I want to begin our discussion on something called spatial autocorrelation. All right, spatial autocorrelation. And basically, what spatial autocorrelation is saying is that things that are near together are going to influence each other more than things that are farther apart. All right, and you can think of this as just another way of stating Tobler's first law of geography. Tobler's first law of right, and that basically is paraphrased, right? The idea that near things are more similar than distant things. Right, and you can imagine some pretty good examples of this in our everyday life, right? You can think of something, for example, the way that diseases spread. Right, diseases have a very high level of spatial autocorrelation because if you find one infected person, right, it increases the chances nearby that you're going to find another infected person, and another infected person, and another infected person, right? But the likelihood of finding infected people decreases as you go farther away, right? That's the idea of spatial autocorrelation. Another example of spatial autocorrelation, right? So this is infection or infectious diseases. Right, another good example of spatial autocorrelation would be something like household income. Right, if you were to look at the household income at, say, the block group level, generally speaking, right, the higher the household income is of one block group, right, that means that the block groups next to it are also more likely to have a high household income. Right, now we're not getting into the social demographic reasons of why that is, but we're just simply stating that based on the spatial location, right, we have this correlation effect where high household income in one area means the area next to it is more likely to have high household income based strictly on its spatial location. So we're correlating something with itself based on space. So hopefully that makes sense. Again, this is just conceptually, right? The idea that things are related to each other in space, and the closer they are together, the more related they are, or the more impact they have compared to things that are farther apart. And we kind of talked about this when we did things like the semivariogram, and we talked about inverse distance weighting, where we said that given a value, right, we would expect the things closer together to have more similar values. That's another way of talking about this spatial autocorrelation. So what we're going to do in this series of videos is come up with metrics to actually measure the level of spatial autocorrelation. Right, we talked about the semivariogram, which showed that variance would hopefully increase as you've got farther away from an object. Right, the idea being that you would have more dissimilarity with features that were farther away. With inverse distance weighting, right, we said that, we can use some alpha parameter to dictate how strongly we wanted distance to impact the interpolation. Right, but what we're going to do in this series is we're going to come up with a series of metrics that are actually going to give us a statistical value associated with the specific term autocorrelation. We're going to talk about Moran's I in particular. We're going to talk about Moran's I. So what I want to do in these videos is build up to the point where we understand what goes into Moran's I, we understand how Moran's I is calculated, and we understand what the outputs mean, and then we understand how to implement all of that in R. That's the general goal for this session. So hopefully you're able to walk away with at least that. And as always, if you have any questions, please reach out. Thank you.